the G7, they'll look past our fundamental security cooperation with the Five Eyes, the UK-USA community. They'll ignore the links that we have with the whole world, and they'll talk down our ability to be a natural, healthy, self-governing democracy. Remain campaigners have also tried to infer that programmes like Erasmus or Horizon 2020 or even the European Space Agency are limited to EU countries. Just to be absolutely clear, you do not have to be an EU member to be involved in these programmes. Georgia and even Israel fully participate in Horizon 2020. Turkey and Iceland fully participate in the Erasmus programme. To suggest that any of these would disappear is just baseless scaremongering. Remain campaigners want to suggest that people who want to leave the EU somehow want to pull up a drawbridge. The reality could not be more different. I have a friend called Louis who came to this country as a refugee from Colombia. He is campaigning for a Leave vote because he's seen firsthand how difficult it's become for non-EU people to come to the UK because of EU-enforced passport discrimination. In a world where unlimited migration is infeasible, having an open border to just one part of the world means the rest of the world gets clamped down on. I don't think that a doctor from France is any better than a doctor from India, yet our migration policy does not reflect this. I want to present an open, internationalist case of what Britain can be. How we can stand tall on our own 2 feet on the world stage. How we can forge new trading relationships and with the countries of the world that are actually growing. The EU has proved itself to be a hangover from a bygone age. It's a 1950s construct that has been rendered cumbersome and obsolete by technological and economic forces. The rest of the world has moved on from this 1950s world when freight costs were high, refrigeration was expensive, and travel was inconvenient. Innovation has completely eliminated the world of the 1950s. It's now just as easy to trade with countries like India and New Zealand as it is to trade with France or Germany. In short, geographical proximity has never mattered less. So why do we tie ourselves to this one corner of the world that is not experiencing any significant economic growth? It's clear that as the rest of the world grows, the EU is in relative decline. Over the last 10 years, China's economy has doubled. India's economy has doubled in size. Ethiopia's economy has doubled in size, yet on the most recent annual figures, incredibly, the Eurozone economy is the same size now as it was in 2008. The markets of the future lie further than this narrow continent that now represents a minority of our trade. Yet all UK companies, whether they export to the EU or not, have to abide by EU regulations. The last century saw a shift of the economic centre of the world from the Mediterranean to the Atlantic, and now we're seeing it shift further to the Pacific. Why then do we insist on tying ourselves to this so-called economic entity that's not so much about a common market as a common government? It's become clear that the EU is not an economic project. If we want free trade, then we'll be in the free trade area that stretches from non-EU Iceland right across to non-EU Turkey, right across the continent. The EU has now taken on almost every attribute of statehood. It is not an economic entity. It has a president, it has a parliament, it has a Supreme Court. It has a common border, a common tariff, a common agricultural and fisheries policy. It even has its own flag and its own anthem. It has been slowly accruing these elements for the past 30 years. It's not like they're not open about it. Eurocrat after Eurocrat talks openly about federation. Former EU Commissioner Viviane Reding has even written papers about what she calls a United States of Europe. At the entrance to the visitors' gallery in the European Parliament, there's a plaque with these words: "National sovereignty is the root cause of the most crying evils of our time. The only remedy for this supreme and catastrophic evil is a federal union of the peoples." It's clear. Voting to remain is not voting for the status quo. It's continuing down this well-signposted path of ever closer union. It means being dragged into more Eurozone bailouts. It means paying for more countries to join the EU. It means foregoing the right to make our own relationships with the world. But by voting to leave, we'll be able to take back control of our own destiny. will be able to make trade deals that are in our interests. Currently, we don't have free trade with America, India, China, Brazil, or even Australia, thanks to the EU taking 100% competency over trade law. An EU deal with Australia is being held up because Italian tomato growers are challenging it. The EU deal with Canada is being held up because of an unrelated dispute about Romanian visas. And then we come to the EU-American deal, commonly known as TTIP. It's shockingly bad for the UK because it's not been negotiated in our interests. The entire audio-visual sector is not included in the deal because most of the EU is not natively English-speaking. But crucially, the deal also does not take account of our unique and special healthcare system. Most healthcare systems on the continent are insurance or market-based, with high private sector involvement, and TTIP therefore includes no protection for our NHS, which could be opened up and picked apart by US healthcare companies. The EU is not only slow, cumbersome, dominated by special interests, and not working for the priorities of this country, but they charge us for the privilege of being a member. £350 million a week, enough to build a fully staffed hospital every 7 days. Or to put it another way, according to the IFS, over the last Parliament, the entire austerity programme saved £36 billion. Over that time, our gross EU contribution was £85 billion and our net contribution was £42 billion. It's such a vast amount of money that we could have made none of the cuts in the last Parliament and still saved billions. And sure, you could listen to the tax-dodging, multinational plutocrats who probably do advantage from an unelected government that cozies up to big business and is unaccountable to the people. They probably like having a direct say over rules and regulations without having to bother with electorates. But it hurts the little guys. It hurts the small and medium-sized businesses that are the backbone of our economy. It hurts working people who have lower wages, more expensive food and higher taxes due to the EU. Even leading figures of the Remain campaign admit this. Paddy Ashdown, the former Liberal Democrat leader, says that leaving the EU would mean cheaper food. Lord Rose, the chair of the BSE campaign, the In campaign, says that leaving would mean higher wages. However, I'm sure that our esteemed opposition would say the opposite, so I did a little bit of research. Baron Haskins was a leading member of the Britain in Europe campaign, which campaigned vociferously for the UK to join the euro. Michael Lloyd, in 2010, released a book advocating for the UK to join the euro. Its thesis was, and I quote, "The UK is simply not large enough to be anything other than a part of a united and economically integrated eurozone." Dirk Hazel represents the EPP in the UK, which is an EU-wide party that calls for a federal euro. If you think it would be beneficial for us to join the euro, by all means vote against the motion. If you believe in a single country called Europe, by all means vote against the motion. But if you believe in taking back control, in spending our money on our priorities, in forging new cooperative relationships right across the world, then I implore you, vote for this motion tonight. Thank you.